segment of our students that are really interested in this. And so we're pleased to bring this one online.
What's our virtual PE course? I'm not
So-
familiar with that.
Virtual PE, we have a handful, well, I shouldn't say handful in each building. I think it's a little bit higher at South, but roughly about 30 students. I think maybe 15 of these, 30 or 35 at West, and maybe about 60, 65 at South, who are using our heart rate monitors. And so when PE doesn't fit necessarily into their schedule, what we've been able to do is virtualize PE. So they have a weekly check-in with one of our PE staff. It is it's a sixth assignment of theirs. And what they do is they rate how the student has performed over the week. So they need to get, I think it's 3 times a week, into their optimal heart rate zone. The heart rate monitor tracks that, like a Fitbit. And then the teacher checks in with those teachers, or with those students. So if a student's not on pace, they get in touch with them, they talk about it, what do you need to do, how do you need to change, how can you make sure you're hitting your targets for the week. And it's been fairly successful overall so far in our first pilot year. So
And obviously that complies with the state law.
Yes.
it does, and since we're in the competency pilot, it does enable us to have a little leeway in those areas.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. Thank you.
It's a way to solve for a problem that we've always had on any schedule, which is the kids who are taking really a lot of classes and yet don't necessarily qualify for the PE waiver, or maybe don't want the PE waiver in some cases.
Thank you.
So the last course is the Foundations in Problem Solving, which you heard. This would be the companion course to Math 1 for students who we identify with the help of our partner districts as needing the extra math support. So right now we think that's probably about 200 students district-wide who would be in that program in one of the 3 buildings. They described it better than I can, as in terms of really the reasoning behind this is to help students access that math curriculum from day 1. So it's not like, oh, let's do more of what you're going to do in Math 1. It's, let's make sure you're prepared to access today's lesson in Math 1. So this will be a lot of coordination between the Math 1 teacher and the teacher of Foundations, if they're not the same person, which in some cases they might be, just depending on how things play out.
Would that be the special ed teacher then?
Not necessarily, because these students don't all have IEPs or special education needs. So part of that training, special education teachers were involved with that training. We're doing some special follow-up with ESL students as well, who may have math ability but struggle with language, for example, and that might be more of an impediment to them than actually their mathematical knowledge. So we will be offering a special ed version of Math 1, and we want to keep that as true to the regular education curriculum as possible. So the special ed teachers are actually working with the math teachers right now to build that out, to make sure that that mirrors appropriately that Math 1 curriculum, with the appropriate supports.
Okay, so that answers my question from before, actually, that there is going to be a special ed Math 1
Yeah, so there will be a for those students.
Required to do
that
that.
have
Right.
IEP.
That have an IEP. If we think the best environment for them is a self-contained Math 1, there'll be that. Students who we think can access it with support, that'll be the Foundations class in Math 1. Then we'll have some students with IEPs who can be in a regular Math 1 class and just need a little bit of support, but maybe not the full Foundations class. So there'll be a wide range for our students, depending upon need of what they would need for the course.
So you guys are aware of Kelly Morrissey's work, Dr. Kelly Morrissey, and you mentioned in reading, she's been really instrumental in the improvements we've made there. One of the things that's really helped us is the ability to use Tableau as a data visualization tool. So what we're looking at, Terry, is really tracking students across performance points, and we're seeing that, in math or any other field, we may often have students with IEPs who are actually performing above students without IEPs. So it's looking at the student, not necessarily a particular historical label, to really try to move them forward as much as possible. And so the math, this is a new foray. We are committing FTE, but we're also committed to making sure that we watch it, study it, learn from it more closely than ever before, because we want to have as few kids in any kind of a double block scenario of math as possible.
Can you speak a little bit to the staffing? Are we adding or?
So what we're doing is we're trying to look at staffing in the aggregate and see across all areas where are we replacing, or maybe where don't we need to replace. to try and grab that FTE internally before we make a final decision on what, if any, is needed to be added to run this course. So we're not through with those numbers yet, and probably won't be until March when we actually get everybody scheduled and know how it all falls out. But we know there are certain areas where we may not need to rehire a staff member next year, and so that FTE can be dedicated in this area.
There is some training costs that I see, you know, some
We-
summer curriculum work.
We have, so we will support this with summer curriculum money, and we already have supported it with district PD money and our title funds where appropriate to get the training for staff.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Wait, so the teachers have to take it during the summer in order to learn, you mean for this course?
Well, anytime we bring a new course on, we typically allot summer curriculum writing money. And what that enables the teachers to do is we pay them for their time in the summer if more curriculum needs to be written around the course. Now, we've already started that, which is a little bit atypical, only because we know we're headed in this direction. So this isn't a course in the past that might be something we wanted to add for another reason, because this is more programmatic. We've already started some of the curriculum writing around this. But that's very typical for us to support new classes with summer curriculum writing money.
No, I mean, that's good, I didn't know when.
Okay, any other questions or? Okay, hearing none, Ginny, would you take the roll?
Sullivan,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Bessler, Austriaco.
Aye.
Owen.
Aye. Can I have a motion on item 9A, powerhouse services?
Second.
We already had update on this, right?
Yeah, this is our annual biometric screening that we do for staff during the finals week. So it's a bid, and it's a 3-year contract within Powerhouse Services.
Okay, any questions on that? All right, would you take the roll?
Collins,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sullivan, Austriaco.
Aye.
Bessler, Owen.
Aye. Could I have a motion on item 9B? This is the architect fees. revised.
Second.
Okay,
Information was provided in Friday notes. We have a master agreement with White. This addendum addresses the use of a construction manager for the project that we're going to do, as well as the fees for this project. So it's just an amendment to our original agreement with them.
any questions or comments? Okay, there are none. Ginny, would you take the roll?
Bessler, Collins,
Aye.
Lee, Austriaco.
Aye.
Sullivan,
No.
and Owen.
Aye. Could I have a motion on item 9C? This is the chilled water piping phase 2 for Main East.
Can I ask a question? So you've got a total of $3.5 million in jobs here approximately. The source of that money is?
With the exception of the roofs are coming out of health, life, safety. Everything else is the operation and maintenance fund.
I'd make a motion on 9C through K. For all construction projects.
Okay,
Okay, so moved.
Second.
all right.
We have a question related to that. I'm sure that you guys are fully aware of and be cautious about how to spending and manage and allocating all the costs. But at the same time, guys, never to remind it again, through our future referendum future projects, any of these roofing interior renovations, replacement, concrete repairs, and so on, I hope they will not be a duplicate, spending the money
No, they
twice.
will not be.
So, all these repairs.
In fact, that's probably our philosophy of capital projects, is if we do it now, it's not redone, it's done forever.
And then totally nothing to do with the,
Well,
There's no,
I
well,
wouldn't say done forever.
done
because a roof is
forever,
gonna
done,
last you
next
20
time we're gonna
years,
have to
but-
repair it, but,
Yeah.
so we're not, none of these areas are items that we will be addressing in the next 3.5 years through the referendum projects.
okay. So all the repair, construction, projects that we are facing to see, definitely we are cautiously taking a look at and make sure that they will not be redundant or anything like that.
Absolutely, and
Jen,
most of
I
these
just-
you can
I
have
wanna
our
remind the
repair
board that
items.
recently, within the last 3 or 4 years, we've been replacing boilers that were 50, 51,
Yeah.
52, 53 years old that had original lifespans of 30. Take that one thing. and
30
sort
on
of-
the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take that one idea and extrapolate it across all of our facilities, and that's been our record of how we've taken care of buildings. So we hope that we will continue to have that, what I consider good stewardship for our buildings moving forward.
And I just want to mention too, we're considering a large chunk of money here at one time, but all of this has been discussed at Buildings and Grounds.
As well as presented to the board in November before we actually started the bids.
So any other questions on any of these items? Okay. If there are none, would you take the roll?
Collins,
Aye.
Sullivan,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Austriaco,
Aye.
Bessler, Owen.
Aye. Okay. We did include J.
Yes, I did.
Aye.
See through Jane.
Okay, calendar items?
Because that's how I added it up to 3.5.
It wasn't marked.
Did you have spiral in that?
I worked on it.
Calendar items, we have a tentative date for Buildings and Grounds, February 13th. There's also interviewing for construction management, 18th through the 22nd, just so I remember who's involved in that.
Both member Collins and member Bessler
Okay.
from the Buildings and Grounds Committee has volunteered, so it will be one of those nights based on which night I can get both of you available.
18th through 22nd?
It's just one of those nights, you're saying?
It's just, well, it could be two. We
Okay.
haven't gotten the proposals, but
Okay.
I would envision it at least being one.
On the 21st, we both will be at a candidate forum, so I don't have to do it.
Oh, yeah, right.
And I would not be on 21st.
Okay, well, you know what, you can send around an email. or-
Yeah.
Okay. Education Committee meeting on the 25th, I don't see finance, so we don't need a
Well,
finance.
we initially, there was nothing for the March meeting. If you would prefer, we can still hold finance, or we can add it to whatever agenda items we have for March.
April,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Right there in the transition. We'll work it in.
Okay.
We'll make sure Terry's up to speed.
Yeah,
I want Sean there.
no comment.
Okay. Anything else for the calendar? All right. Any other public comments or communications? Hearing none. Could I have a motion to go into closed session for purposes of reviewing closed session minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Okay, could you take the roll?
Austriaco,
Aye.
Bessler, Collins,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sullivan,
Aye.
Owen.
Aye. Okay. We're in closed session.